Mysterious creatures photographed in Brazil. A Brazilian man captured some odd images of what appear to be mysterious creatures on his camera. The Bahian government imposed a curfew on the area in the middle of 2021, prohibiting people from leaving their homes at night. However, this seemed to only apply to humans, since locals started reporting seeing weird animals out and about throughout the night. They described them as smaller than people, coated in black hair, and possessing a dog-like face. People began to sneak out in the hopes of seeing these monsters as a result of these rumors, and one local was successful in doing just that. Following their capture, the photos were circulated on social media. Some locals weren't so confident and didn't want to venture outside at night for fear of seeing these animals. Reverse image searches yield no results, suggesting that the photos are authentic. Locals have also attested to the veracity of what they observe in the area, and soon after, people began to form links with both these animals and the mysterious night crawlers, which are claimed to be two-legged beings. According to old American myths, these animals have been on Earth for a long time, and they are said to have originated on a planet that was mostly made of swamps, which explains why they have such long legs. Those who have studied these creatures have said that they are able to walk across the swampy marshlands that are found all over the country. However, some have claimed that they only rarely land and spend the majority of their time in and around our waters. They have also noted that they are comparable to other mysterious species that have been spotted close to our oceans, and they claim that this is one of the primary reasons why we don't see them very often. The creatures have been spotted in the California region over the years. The nightcrawler has been characterized as an ethereal, strange-looking creature that has frequently been the subject of a great deal of skepticism. This is because the only proof of an encounter with the creature comes from uncut security footage that shows the strange entity walking through residential backyards and covering large distances. The nightcrawler is also said to be a creature that is simple to manufacture, since it resembles a big white cloth wrapped over a long-legged human moving slowly on film. As a result, several video analysts have examined the tape to see whether or not it has been altered in any manner. Not only did they discover that the footage was authentic, but they also discovered that they could reconstruct the creature's whole course, traversing numerous locations throughout the city until completely vanishing, by utilizing the angle and direction of the cameras. The night crawlers have been seen in the film at heights comparable to those of children, men, and even cats. Despite their varied sizes, they are always seen walking on two long white legs with no arms of any type. This has led some people to conclude that the creature is nothing more than the application of practical effects. In addition, the creature's movements are correlated with the billowing movements of the wind, and the footage is uncut with lights and shadows, indicating that the thing exists in 3 dimensions. Many people have come to believe that the bizarre night crawlers are real, thanks to years of unending footage of them. Occasionally, someone will report seeing the elusive creature, but it has been difficult to get footage of it because they are not expecting to. Utah skinwalker sighting. In 2018, the terrifying image was posted to Reddit under the title Utah skinwalker sighting. According to the poster, their friend's ex-husband took the picture, and they said that the father of the ex-husband and him were on a rural property to examine the scene of an alleged incident that had occurred a few weeks prior. They claim that a man brandishing a shotgun approached them and shook his head, telling them not to be by themselves on this section of the land. He gave them a warning shot and motioned for them to go away. Along a dusty driveway, the father and the ex-husband fled as quickly as they could. They illuminated their path with the camera's flash, and as they were doing this, a number of photographs were captured. After telling their friends and relatives about the strange experience for a few weeks, they finally made the decision to see if the camera had captured any images of them running. One of the pictures captured a really unsettling moment. A humanoid figure is visible in the center of the road. Its torso is extremely thick, and it is heavy and brown, and it appears to be plodding across the road with a slight slouch. The individual who posted the photograph thinks it might be proof of the notorious skinwalker, and if this image turns out to be genuine, it will be one of the few in existence that shows the creature. The mythology and folklore of many Native American tribes, especially the Navajo people of the Southwest, have a strong influence on skinwalkers. It is thought that these mysterious entities have the capacity to change into animals at will, usually with malicious intent. The history of skinwalkers is veiled in legend and custom, intricately linked to the Navajo people's spiritual convictions. A skinwalker, according to Navajo folklore, is a person who has attained supernatural abilities through witchcraft and dark magic, frequently by carrying out forbidden deeds. The ability to shapeshift into an animal and take on its physical attributes is supposed to be granted to the skinwalker by donning the skin or hide of that animal. In Navajo culture, the capacity to change into an animal is typically connected to shaman, or healers and medicine men or women who utilize their abilities for the good of their community. The idea of the skinwalker, on the other hand, is a distortion of this spiritual discipline in which people use their abilities for nefarious or self-serving ends, and it's reported that skinwalkers are capable of more than only shapeshifting. When in animal shape, they are claimed to possess increased strength, speed, and agility, making them extremely dangerous opponents. They might display strange traits in human form, like mind control, telepathy, and the capacity to influence the elements. The ability of skinwalkers to mimic human voices and noises is one of the most terrifying characteristics of skinwalker lore. They frequently use this talent to entice victims or instill dread and bewilderment. They are thought to feed on people's inadequacies and vulnerabilities, instilling terror in those they come into contact with. Mysterious object taken down over Brazil. Thousands of individuals in Brazil reported seeing strange lights back in 2020. Videos of these strange lights are beginning to circulate online as more and more individuals record them. Some residents reported seeing lights pulse and dart across the sky, while others described seeing objects resembling orbs that would hover in one spot before suddenly vanishing. There is no doubt that a large number of residents have succeeded in photographing these unusual lights. North of Rio de Janeiro is where the lights have been most seen. Locals have been bringing in their videos, and thus at the time, the Brazilian press began covering the objects. These activities have been taking place in Mage, and the region has even started to trend on social media. However, some claimed that the trend was only taken down after around an hour, and this caused some to suggest that the trend was removed from social media on purpose in order to stop more people asking questions. Remarkably, the situation changed when locals reported that one of the objects encountered difficulties and crashed. There have been reports that the item struck the earth a few days after the original sighting, at which point other lights were reported to be visible. One of the residents, intrigued by what had transpired, made the adventurous decision to search for the fallen craft. They quickly arrived at the location, where they could plainly see a metallic, spherical-looking object. It looked as though it was glowing blue from the inside and was releasing some kind of steam. The video is cut after only about 15 seconds. Some have questioned the object's legitimacy, despite its intriguing and futuristic appearance. As of right now, many have claimed that the alleged object was created by someone to give the impression that the entire event was staged. However, as someone pointed out, how did this thing manage to materialize so quickly? It was also noted that there was extremely high background radiation in the vicinity of the object's discovery, which at the time was unexplainable. Some claimed that this characteristic was shared by UFOs that had landed, and some viewers of the video have said that it's well shot and that the item appears to be much larger thanks to camera techniques. It appears that unusual visitors have occurred in Brazil on occasion. Researchers have spent countless hours trying to determine the truth behind the numerous unidentified flying objects that have been reported from this area throughout the years. While some have called the object a hoax, others have also made the point that you shouldn't let it take your attention away from the real lights that have been photographed. Photographs of the mysterious duende. The duende, a small gnome-like creature steeped in Hispanic folklore, captivates the imagination with its strange presence and whimsical nature. The concept of the duende finds its roots in folklore, where it is believed to have emerged from ancient beliefs and superstitions passed down through generations. Unlike malevolent creatures of other traditions, the creature is often portrayed as mischievous, yet not inherently harmful, known for playing pranks on unsuspecting travelers or local villagers. Stories of encounters with the creature often emphasize its elusive nature and magical abilities, such as shape-shifting or invisibility, adding to its mystical allure. They were held accountable for numerous odd occurrences that occurred in and around homes, and some have concluded that these creatures are tricking you as a result of this. They appear to be rather innocuous in the majority of stories. Some even advise you to give them your first bite of any meal in order to stay on your good side. According to reports from other residents, you can call out to these creatures, and they will come to your aid if you become lost in the woods. This seems to hold true as long as you didn't hurt anyone. The Watchers of the Woods warn the villagers when they go outside to play in the area. The creature was always keeping an eye on them, so they were warned not to get into too much trouble in the woods and not to hurt any animals for fun, and if they saw you misbehaving, they would come to you and drag you into their cave, which is located far into the forest. Strangely enough, photos purporting to depict these mysterious creatures have surfaced in recent years. The photographers claim that these images are challenging to obtain because the majority of the sightings occurred at night, making it impossible for the cameras to catch the images. Nonetheless, the images do seem to depict little, humanoid-like creatures, which is consistent with the creature's general description. Dogman caught on camera at zoo. A user on social media uploaded this strange image to Reddit, where it has already sparked some thought-provoking discussions over what this object might be. Trail cameras have long been used to record unusual critters, and in more recent times, they have allowed us to get insight into some of the animals that inhabit these far-off places. But since this picture was taken right outside of a zoo, several people were left wondering if the creature was maybe stalking the animals there. The uploader claims that a game camera outside of the Texas Zoo took the mysterious picture. When it was first uploaded, it was posted in a private zookeeper Facebook group. The keeper said that they were unable to identify the object after seeing it on a trail camera aimed at a perimeter fence. Those who saw the image said that the camera was aimed at the outer barrier from inside the zoo. Because most of the photos are of wild animals, as you would expect from a trail camera, some speculated that the private zookeeper wasn't seeking attention. Others responded by saying that this lends greater authenticity to the images. After the post was distributed to organizations that study unexplained phenomena, a user commented that it fit the dogman's descriptions. This photograph closely resembles eyewitness descriptions of the dogman creature. Stories about the dogman have been around for a while, however. There are now very few photos available, most of them featuring hazy animals. This one is still a little fuzzy from the trail camera, but you can clearly see that it's a bipedal animal that resembles a wolf. Despite the dogman tale, if you were to look at this picture and not know about it, you may think that it's a werewolf or a wolf standing on its hind legs. It's interesting to note that people of Texas claim that these supposed animals fit the general description of the dogman, a creature that is said to resemble a werewolf and measure between 6 and 7 feet in height. Another account of their contact with the dogman is based on a personal narrative that was published in recent years and revolves around their meeting that took place in the Texas county of El Paso over 50 years ago. In 1968, an 11-year-old boy and his friends went to a local baseball field in El Paso during the summer to play baseball. The field was about 5 blocks away from Richmond Avenue. Someone hit the baseball at an oblique angle as they were playing, and it flew into the trees next to the baseball pitch as the day was becoming late. It was long past dark by now, with the sun completely set. They were afraid to leave the baseball pitch in case someone was waiting outside to act strangely. The lads approached the fence and turned to face the baseball, but as they did, they noticed an odd man standing outside the fence, facing away from the boys. He refused to turn around, ignoring the youngsters as they cried out to him, asking for help finding the ball. Fearing for their safety, one of the lads picked up a nearby boulder and hurled it in the man's direction, hoping to scare him off or make him turn around. The rock slipped silently to one side, and then the man sank to all fours and appeared to change into a big wolf. The boys claimed that the creature was a werewolf and fled from the thing as a result. They sprinted all the way home without stopping, shut the door, and spent the night at a friend's house rather than making the long trek home. The bedside watcher. These video stills from a hospital surveillance camera appear to show a misty human shape, resembling a child, keeping watch over a patient. However, paranormal researchers have said that there are 3 different interpretations of the person in the bed and their purpose in the hospital. Either an individual suffering from a terminal illness, an elderly man close to passing, or a sleep experiment. Some who have seen the image have said that it's consoling to know that someone is with them during their last moments. These 3 still images are from an infrared surveillance and monitoring camera that was installed in a hospital. A mysterious humanoid figure may be seen standing next to a hospital bed in 2 out of the 3 photos. The figure is almost perched on the railings in one of these video stills, gazing down at the patient. It appears as though the other is making touch with the subject's forehead. The first story tells us it was a part of a sleep analysis experiment, but does not provide a location for the hospital or medical center. The man in the bed had been having nightmares about someone trying to enter his bedroom via the walls in order to get to him when he was awake. His fear over going to bed was causing him to be so terrified that his waking life was negatively impacted. The cameras captured the photos while they were being conducted on him to monitor and investigate what was going on in his brain during these waking nightmares. The second story is that an elderly individual who was about to pass away was lying in bed. The picture was taken right before the person passed away, and many suggested that it might have been their own spirit giving their body one final glance before leaving it behind, or that it might have been one of their close relatives helping them cross over to the other side. The third story is that it's a young individual with an illness, and many people think that this picture, which was taken a long time before he passed away, might be that of a guardian angel or a kind spirit that would watch over those who were about to pass on. It's possible that it was something else entirely. Some people even speculate that the entity may be demonic. Mysterious photographs show the Ogopogo. Reports of a massive serpent-like creature swimming in the waters of British Columbia's Lake Okanagan date back to 1872. Numerous residents and visitors have reported seeing the Ogopogo monster in the lake. When Vancouver resident Ed Fletcher captured this dramatic image of Ogopogo in 1976, it became one of the most well-known sightings of the animal. Fletcher saw a massive serpent-like thing slithering over the lake while he and his companions were taking in the view. He snapped a picture using his camera, and it would go on to be one of the most important pieces of evidence suggesting a cryptid might be swimming in Lake Okanagan. There are reports of a sighting near a beach at Okanagan Mission in 1926. About 30 cars worth of witnesses are said to have seen the same thing during this incident. Art Folden allegedly captured footage of the supposed creature in 1968, capturing a big wake traveling across the sea. After a computer examination of the video, it was determined to be a 3-dimensional solid creature. A mobile phone video from 2011 showed 2 shadowy forms in the sea. Since the 19th century, First Nations people claim to have seen the creature and stated that it is most commonly described as a 40 to 50-foot sea serpent. The creature is classified as a many-hump variety of lake monster by British researcher Carl Schuker, who also speculates that it might be a primitive serpentine whale similar to Basilosaurus, which lived 40 million years ago. However, it has also been proposed that the sightings are misidentifications of ordinary animals, such otters, and inanimate objects, like floating logs, given that the physical evidence for the beast is restricted to grainy photos and film. Moreover, it might be a pliosaur, mosasaur, or plesiosaur. According to a legend, the creature's family resides in a cave in the middle of the lake. According to the Kelowna Daily Courier in British Columbia, 2 experts have decided to examine the remains of a strange animal that was discovered near the Okanagan Lake shore. Several years back, it was reported that a scientist in Alberta would study the body directly, and a researcher in Ontario will receive a tissue sample of the beast for DNA testing. Ghost of a girl captured inside a hospital. Capturing the essence of a ghostly encounter, especially one as poignant and unsettling as the sighting of a little girl in a hospital, evokes a mixture of fascination, curiosity, and perhaps a touch of fear. Such encounters blur the lines between the realms of the living and the departed, prompting questions about existence, spirituality, and the mysteries that linger beyond our understanding. Imagine a hospital ward, where the sterile scent of antiseptic mingles with the hushed murmurs of medical staff and the occasional beep of monitoring equipment. It's an environment charged with emotions, hope, fear, and sometimes sorrow. In this setting, paranormal occurrences may seem out of place, yet they often manifest when least expected, leaving an indelible mark on those who witness them. In this particular account, an individual's encounter with the ghost of a girl unfolded during one of his late-night shifts, a time when the hospital corridors were dimly lit and eerily quiet. The usual hustle and bustle of the day had given way to a palpable stillness, creating an atmosphere ripe for the unexpected. It was during a photograph being taken that the individual in question noticed something unusual near the end of a dimly lit hallway. A faint, almost imperceptible figure stood near a doorway leading to an empty room. At first glance, the person who took the photograph mistook the figure for a child who had wandered away from their parents, perhaps lost and in need of assistance. But as they looked at the image closer, a chill ran down their spine, for the figure appeared translucent, ethereal, and distinctly out of place in the hospital setting. The figure was that of a young girl, no more than 7 or 8 years old, dressed in a simple, outdated dress or hospital gown. As he stood there, not aware of the entity before him, the host was giving off a soft, ambient light emanated from within her, casting a gentle glow on the hallway walls. Despite the surreal nature of the encounter, the individual didn't know it was happening until they reviewed the image. As quickly as she had appeared, the ghostly girl faded from existence, her form dissolving into the ambient light that had surrounded her. In the days that followed, the individual said that they found himself reflecting on the experience with a newfound sense of wonder and reverence. The encounter had left an indelible impression, prompting deeper contemplation of the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. Man captures images of the Pennsylvanian white Bigfoot. In North American woodlands, sightings of the fabled ape-like monster known as the Sasquatch have been reported. Sightings occur all over the continent, with sightings concentrated in the Pacific Northwest. Some particularly strange sightings in Pennsylvania include a white-furred, Bigfoot-like creature that is typically seen in conjunction with UFOs. In 1970, Blakesley, Pennsylvania saw the first sighting of the Pennsylvania white Bigfoot. Witness Annette reported that the animal she saw in 1970 was between 6 and 7 feet tall, with a long neck, a large chest, and a coat of dirty white fur. Annette continued by saying that it has dark, widely separated eyes, and the lower part of its face was hidden by its white hair. The skin around the forehead and eyes was rosy. It appeared as though its hair hung over its forehead like a fringe, and was a little longer on its head. At 9:30 in the evening on September 27, 1973, 2 girls were standing outside in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, when an 8-foot-tall creature with red-lit eyes and white fur fled into the neighboring woods. In its hands, the humanoid held a big, bright sphere. With hysterics, the girls fled into their home. Then, after spending more than an hour in the woods looking for the thing, the father of one of the girls went there. In the same year, 2 Bigfoot sightings occur simultaneously in the meadow, and a light orb lands close to Uniontown, Pennsylvania. Approximately simultaneously, a bright object passed over the surrounding forest. The 2008, a YouTube video known as the Pennsylvania White Bigfoot clip, was recorded in Carbondale, Pennsylvania. The people of Carbondale have been reporting strange sightings of a white Bigfoot for a long time. The first underground mine in the history of the United States was located in the small city of Carbondale. It was once a significant Delaware and Hudson Railroad terminus. Following receipt of an anonymous email, a local Pennsylvania news station reported on the white, possibly albino creature in July 2008. Some sort of animal about 6 to 7 feet tall, covered in all white fur, was the description given by witnesses, and the communication made particular reference to a Carbondale wooded region close to a mine reclamation facility. Strange noises and disturbances in the woods were noticed by the homeowners, and in one instance, an anonymous man saw something moving in his lawn and managed to get some strange film. The man captured a full second of footage, showing a big white creature that looked a lot like a Bigfoot. The monster in the video darts away as soon as the man's camera catches its face. According to reports on the internet, the video clip exhibits a few strange elements. First of all, the animal has extraordinarily huge body proportions that are difficult to replicate. The species has a hooded nose, a cone-shaped skull, and a distinct brow ridge, and the arms are long and the shoulders are very high. The thing moves quickly, and the creature has little ears and a head covered with white fur. Most significantly, the footage reveals the object's distorted face as it flees, raising the possibility that it is not a mask. Frame 17. One of the most discussed mysteries is the Dyatlov Pass incident. It has been discussed at length, and some researchers claim that it has been clarified. On the other hand, investigators who have examined the case have discovered some discrepancies. When the Soviet Union was still concealed behind the Iron Curtain in 1959, preventing any information from efficiently reaching the media or the outside world, an odd episode took place that still arouses interest and terror in people today. Known as the Dyatlov Pass incident, on February 1st and 2nd, 9 ski hikers ventured into the northern Ural Mountains with the goal of conquering the region that the inhabitants feared because of bizarre rumors and superstitions. Through their exploration of the area, these hikers sought to allay any concerns the villagers may have had and open up the area to future hikers who would come to take in the breathtaking scenery. Sadly, this choice would confirm the superstitiousness of the area and result in the passings of the 9 extremely skilled and knowledgeable hikers. The group's tent, which was set up on the slopes, was found abandoned and severely damaged on February 26th by a rescue crew. When it was discovered that the tent was ripped apart from the inside, it appeared confusing. It was as though the group had started to fear something and had torn through the canvas to escape. Following their tracks in the snow, the group's members' bodies were discovered in a nearby ravine. This discovery only added to the mysteries surrounding the group's disappearance, as most of the bodies were found only wearing their pants, as if they had fled into the snow's darkness without changing before they presumably froze. The idea of hypothermia was immediately called into doubt as the investigation went on and the bodies of the deceased were examined. Medical examiners found that every individual had internal injuries, which are frequently observed in automobile crashes or when a person is struck by a tremendous amount of pressure and force. This gave rise to the theory that the victims may have been attacked by a non-human power that was able to inflict such horrific force and cause their passings. Sadly, neither this idea nor any others like it can ever be proven or refuted. According to one of the most intriguing stories, the group met their end at the hands of a Yeti, or Bigfoot-like creature, that lives in the isolated areas of the Ural Mountains. Legends of a Yeti-like creature known as the Menk exist among the local Mansi tribe. Moreover, it is claimed to prowl the area where the incident occurred. Among the group's possessions was a well-known photo found on Nikolai Thibault Brignol's camera. There is an odd photo on a shot called Frame 17 that appears to depict a person that resembles a Bigfoot-type creature. Some people think that this figure was actually one of the hikers coming back from a higher area of the land, most likely trying to orient themselves. Given that it was the final photo Thibault Brignol took, some individuals would interpret it more literally than others. The mysterious Zolotaryov photos. In addition to the previously mentioned reasons to believe Zolotaryov might not have been who he seemed, he and Brignols were both significantly better dressed than the others. Unlike the others, they all had inner soles of some kind in their shoes. This has prompted the question of whether they were specifically equipped with equipment that the others were not. According to other ideas, the 2 most likely departed the tent a little earlier than the other 9. Maybe they dressed in whatever they could find and went to relieve themselves. It was intended that they would return within a few minutes, but something occurred that prevented them from going back to the tent. However, Zolotaryov's camera on his body is interesting. He was still wearing the camera around his neck. Perhaps even stranger was the fact that this camera was not the same as the one he had with him the entire trip, which would eventually surface among the wreckage of the damaged tent. For whatever reason, the 11 images he took were mysterious and a little unsettling. They display odd flashes, unusual manifestations, and possibly most intriguing, glowing orbs. These mysterious photos were shared on social media, claiming they are proof of La Llorona. Social media users have described the footage of the ghost as the scariest thing they have ever seen, as it appears to be waving loudly from the treetop. Above the tree, a woman's ghostly figure moves. Terrified locals claimed that the ghost materialized in the middle of the day in a treetop in the Colombian community of Monitos, Cordoba. Along the banks of the river, under the dark canopy of trees, there wanders a woman in white. She cries out for her children, and some say, "If you bear witness to the whales, you are surely marked." Her name is Maria. Maria came from a small rural town in Mexico, and although her family was poor, her beauty drew men from all over. This included a wealthy rancher who, when traveling through Maria's town, immediately spotted her and knew he must have her. The man easily won her over, showering her with gifts and attention that she had never had. At first, the marriage seemed strong. Maria and the rancher seemed happy and went on to have 2 sons. It was not long after this, however, that things in her marriage started to change. The rancher continued to travel. Some say he enjoyed a life of alcohol and beautiful women. Others say he went back to his ranch. There were times where he would leave Maria and their boys for months at a time, and when he did return, his attention was only for the boys. Resentment began to well up inside of Maria, both for her marriage and her boys. One night, as Maria and her boys walked along the path near the river, it is said she spotted her husband in a carriage with a younger, wealthier woman. He stopped the carriage to have a few words with the boys, ignoring Maria completely, before continuing down the road, and it was then Maria finally broke. In a blind rage, she grabbed her 2 boys and threw them into the river. When she came to her senses and realized what she had done, it was far too late. She searched for them, but to no avail, for they had already been carried downstream. She ran along the banks of the rivers, crying out for her boys, knowing all was lost, as her boys were gone and there was no reason for her husband to return now. Maria then threw herself in the river. The people of Maria's village found her the next morning and buried her in a long white funeral gown. On that very night, La Llorona's sorrowful wails began. Down by the river, people began to see a woman in a long white dress, calling out for her children. People believe that she was denied entrance to heaven without her boys, and now she is destined to walk the riverbanks in search of them forever. The mysterious vanishing of Catherine Hammondtree. Along with 6 other hikers, Catherine Hammondtree, aged 68, and her devoted dog Tootsie set off on a trip through the stunning scenery of Cañón del Diablo, often known as Devil's Canyon, on April 11, 2019. The canyon is located in Baja California, Mexico's Sierra de San Pedro Martir National Park, close to San Felipe. Kat, suffering from a recent foot injury, chose to take a break by a swimming pool as the others carried on. When they got back, she was gone. Frantic searching covered every square inch of the rough terrain, but they were unable to locate Kat or her dog's paw prints. All that was left was an unfathomable emptiness where she had disappeared. In the intense heat, how did a woman with 3 broken toes and her devoted dog vanish from sight? Every question was more menacing than the last as they lingered in the stifling canyon air. The Devil's Canyon's eerie quietness appeared to mock the searchers, with its winding paths and deep ravines keeping the truth of what had happened to this woman a secret. The area seemed to have engulfed her completely, leaving behind just the sound of her final footsteps, the discussions she had been having with the trekking group, and the icy, unwavering stare of the desert sun. The answer to the frightening riddle of what happened at the canyon is hidden deep in the depths of the Sierra de San Pedro Martir, and the mystery beckons with an eerie stillness. Although Kat Hammondtree spent almost 20 years living in Mexico, she was born in Seattle, Washington. Kat's daughter, Desiree Blair, characterized her mother as a tough individual who was an experienced hiker and local knowledge, despite the fact that Kat had chemotherapy for liver cancer in 2018 and that the treatments had left her frail. Her husband, Warren Sundquist, and she had been married for a year on the day she vanished. A few days prior to the climb, Desiree claims she got into an argument with Warren that led to their breakup. Kat was furious and transferred her possessions back to her townhouse. She didn't want things to end the way they had, so they talked on the phone for the next day or two and made the decision to be back together. The reasons for the split were a little strange. Kat had fallen asleep at a neighbor's house. She hadn't left a message to let Warren know where she was. Warren told her to move out for unclear reasons after feeling insulted and irritated. Desiree questioned this and said that she believes there was more to the story, and questioned why her mum left and went to the neighbors in the first place. One of the 2 trucks was not operating well, so when Kat and Warren arrived at the canyon, Warren and Dave, the spouse of another hiker named Nicole, made the decision to stay behind with the cars. Kat and her dog Tootsie headed for the first set of pools on the trail, with the intention of reaching the waterfall at the top. Given that Kat was hiking alone and that the day was supposed to be their anniversary, there was some tension between her and Warren. It would have been expected that Kat and Warren would spend their special day together after splitting up and getting back together, but Warren insisted on staying in the Jeep for reasons that were unclear. About 10 minutes into the walk near one of the area's stunning pools of water, she informed the 6 other people in her company that she needed to take a break. The cause of her poor gait was a past foot injury. One of San Felipe's lesser-known tourist destinations could be the Devil's Canyon, and this is hardly shocking considering that there is no cell phone service and the terrain is difficult for cars to access. Picacho del Diablo, the highest peak in Baja at over 10,000 feet, is the base of the breathtaking canyon. However, there is some risk in the area. Travelers should exercise caution due to extreme heat and other issues. Because of the high rate of crime in Baja California, the United States recommends Americans to exercise extreme caution when visiting the state. A Washington Post story claims that there are currently over 500 Americans missing in Mexico. Kat wrote in a blog post on April 5, 2019, that she broke 2 toes on her right foot and then said that a man pulling an ice chest full of beer rolled over her left foot. She promised the other hikers that she would wait for them when they got back from the quick, around 90-minute climb to the waterfall. To let her dog, Tootsie, to frolic in the water and cool off, she sat down at the pool's edge. After Kat interacted with a hiker named Nicole, the party carried on towards the waterfall. Kat would not be seen again after this interaction. The fact that Kat chose to remain behind by herself didn't seem to bother the group. However, it raises the question of why they would abandon Kat there. Never split up with someone in the desert, be it in Mexico or any other desert locale. About 90 minutes later, when the group made their way back, Kat and her dog were nowhere to be seen, and they reasoned that she had to have gone back to her husband Warren Sundquist, who was waiting at the trailhead in a Jeep. Warren hadn't seen her, and when he returned to the parking lot to be sure, she wasn't there either. According to reports, Kat wasn't experiencing any severe physical discomfort from the 90-degree heat, and her prior history of cancer and foot injuries meant that she was in bad health and could not have ventured far from her last known whereabouts. Local search and rescue teams, as well as Mexican military helicopters, scanned the area starting on April 12th after the hikers reported Kat missing. Regretfully, no trace of Kat was located. There were 5 search and rescue dogs, volunteers, Mexicali civil protection officers, the army, the fire department, and the Red Cross involved. It was a very windy day when the cadaver dogs were brought to the canyon and its environs, and they were unable to detect Kat's scent. 34 kilometers northwest of San Felipe, Mexican law enforcement officers conducted a search and destroyed 2 marijuana plants. Though they were questioned, it's not clear if the authorities think the trekking group had anything to do with her disappearance. Just 4 days after Kat disappeared, on Monday, April 15, 2019, State Civil Protection Chief Antonio Rosquillas declared the search was being cancelled. At that moment, the State Attorney General's office was given jurisdiction over the matter. State Civil Protection Chief Antonio Rosquillas said that they put the search on hold. They covered and searched a 5-kilometer radius around the location where she was last seen, but they were unable to locate her. Warren, Kat's spouse, remained at the trailhead parking lot the night she vanished, while the others proceeded to town to alert the Red Cross and other organizations that someone was missing in the canyon. Warren was a little older than Kat, so perhaps he had fallen asleep in his Jeep that night after drinking all day. However, it was odd that he wasn't actively participating in the hunt right away following the disappearance. The search had already been called off when Desiree, Kat's daughter, arrived in San Felipe to help, and after Warren and his team returned from their investigation, he showed her an image of a stick cross he had constructed to erect at the trail as a monument. She was troubled that after only a little absence, her husband was already declaring her deceased. However, Warren did participate in the unauthorized search after the authorities cancelled it. He went in search of Kat multiple times with a group of friends and volunteers. Warren checked a nearby cow ranch and the region between the ranch and the canyon, which seemed too far for Kat to cross, and informed the ranchers that his dog and wife had vanished. Sadly, they claimed not to have seen her or her dog. Additionally, the party traveled to a spot close to the marijuana field and made an effort to talk to a few aloof and impolite Haitian men. They objected to being questioned and did not want to respond to any inquiries. It appeared highly dubious. However, the police had been there and had looked through the property in vain. Kevin, one of the other hikers, dispatched his drone, which had a short battery life, up and around the region to check for Kat's presence. It was difficult to see much in many places since the undergrowth and plant life were more mature than usual due to the mountains having received a bit more rain that season. It would be hard to see Kat if she'd taken cover or curled up under a bush. Her clothes were not appropriate for the desert, which didn't help. She was wearing her K-Swiss tennis shoes, khaki-coloured shorts, and a whitish tank top. Her hair has lately been dyed ruby red as a result of her support for breast cancer charities. Still, despite her red hair, the drone discovered nothing. Desiree stayed in contact with Warren after she had to leave San Felipe in order to return to her children. Warren would follow up with the Baja California State Attorney General to inquire about any developments, but none were provided. After a fortnight or two, Warren ceased to inquire. They assured him that they would notify him if anything came up. After the search was cancelled and the matter was given to the State Attorney General's office, it was essentially forgotten about at that point until family members continued to bug them about it. It didn't help that detectives were only assigned to cases for a few months before switching to other ones. The primary English-speaking contact was contacted, but they never received a response. Family members were not proactively approached. Desiree said that during this ordeal, she felt like she was alone and wanted so much more, but was unable to accomplish anything because of how far away she lived. After she put the posters up around the city, nothing came of it. She also encountered an attempt at extortion where she received texts claiming that someone was holding her mother and asking for money to bring her back. The shock of realizing who was contacting her falsehoods, followed by the first surge of optimism that she was still alive, was a terrible feeling. The only other person who had her new mobile number, aside from Warren, turned out to be a con artist who, she assumed, had deceived Nicole's mother 2 years earlier for a few $1,000s. Warren was informed about it, and she instructed him to give the police the texts that she had saved. She's not sure, but she doubts he ever did. He informed her that he was aware of the man and that he had gone to his house with a few other people to confront him about messaging me. The man was never detained or even asked any questions. Additionally, when she attempted to bring it to the FBI, they advised her to file a missing persons report, even though it was outside of their purview because the man was in Mexico. In any case, extortion is prohibited in both the United States and Mexico, and she said that this made her feel somewhat agitated. Since her last sighting, Kat and her dog Tootsie haven't been seen. Not a single fragment of evidence has turned up close to the scene of her disappearance. The mysterious disappearances of Marlon Robb. In the vast and remote southwestern region of Utah lies the small city of Paragona, nestled just 20 miles away from the renowned Bryce and Zion National Parks. This picturesque area, situated 40 miles north of the Arizona border, became the backdrop for a perplexing incident that unfolded back on the 5th of June in 1926. Marlon Robb, a 17-year-old sheepherder, vanished under mysterious circumstances, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and bewildered searchers in his wake. The Robb family, known for their local involvement in sheepherding, entrusted Marlon and his brother with the task of tending to a small flock each. According to the family, for some unknown reason, many of their sheep had been disappearing. This would prompt the brothers to make several attempts to figure out who or what was responsible for the sheep disappearances, as there were no signs of attacks and the culprit left behind next to no evidence of their involvement. A few moments before his eventual disappearance, Marlon would inform his brother that he had spotted a large beast somewhere in the distance and set off to eliminate the threat. Little did they know that this would be the last time Marlon was seen alive. An article from June 8, 1926, published in the Billings Gazette, bore the headline, "Hounds to Seek Youth, Likely Taken by Beast." When Marlon failed to return, his concerned brother ventured out to search for him. He stumbled upon Marlon's horse, its saddle stained with blood, and discovered Marlon's hat resting on the saddle horn. The brother continued his search and found a spot where he believed Marlon had sat, with more blood and Marlon's loaded rifle nearby. Despite his relentless efforts, he was unable to locate Marlon and returned back to his family to help seek assistance. Luckily, the Robb family held some local political influence, as Utah Governor George Dern heard of the incident and helped to dispatch a team of special bloodhounds to aid in the search for 17-year-old Marlon Robb. Teams retraced Marlon's brother's steps, discovering Marlon's knife and fragments of his clothing drenched in blood in a different area. There were 2 distinct sites where it appeared Marlon had rested. Intriguingly, the rifle found that had belonged to Marlon was still loaded and had not been fired. An article from the Salt Lake Tribune, also dated June 8, 1926, shed light on the perplexing behavior of the bloodhounds at the scene. Bloodhounds were put on the scent, but the animals appeared to be bewildered and could not follow the scent. Hundreds of men have joined in the hunt and covered every foot of the ground in Cottonwood Canyon for a radius of 25 miles, with no trace of the missing boy other than his knife and gun and the clots of blood where they were found. For weeks, the search for Marlon persisted, with over 1,000 search and rescue volunteers from all across the state participating in the intensive effort. Bloodhounds from different regions, experienced woodsmen and fellow sheepherders joined the search, yet Marlon remained elusive. Unfortunately, after nearly 3 weeks, the search was ultimately called off, leaving his fate unresolved. It would not be until late October, back in 1933, 7 years after Marlon's disappearance, that an unexpected discovery would shed some light on the case. While deer hunting in an area roughly 6 miles from the 1926 Robb sheepherding camp, a man by the name of Archie Lamoureux stumbled upon fragments of clothing, pieces of shoes, and a partial skeleton. The remains were turned over to the sheriff, who confirmed their identity as Marlon's. However, details regarding the terrain where the body was found and the condition of the remains, as well as the cause of his passing, were never disclosed. This entire event is marred by conflicting information, adding to the mystery surrounding Marlon's disappearance. Some articles mention that Marlon vanished 20 miles northwest of Paragona, while others claim southwest, Cottonwood Canyon, a location of significance. Furthermore, the inconsistencies extend to the spelling of Marlon's name, with some sources using Marlon and others Marion. One striking aspect of the case is the peculiar behavior of the bloodhounds, which inexplicably refused to track Marlon's scent. In numerous instances, unusual canine behavior emerges as a significant factor in disappearances. While some might argue that a predator, such as a cougar or bear, might have been responsible, the circumstances surrounding Marlon's disappearance raise doubts. Marlon managed to reach 2 different resting spots, and his rifle remained loaded. It seems unlikely that a predator would choose to confront a formidable human target when more vulnerable prey, such as sheep, were all throughout the area. Another perplexing element is the apparent absence of tracks. Skilled trackers, especially in wooded areas, typically excel at finding traces left by individuals. Speculation arose in news articles suggesting that sheep or other animals might have obliterated the tracks, but this seems highly unlikely. The inclusion of such a statement indicates the bafflement experienced by the trackers on the scene, and almost insinuates that trackers felt as if Marlon was somehow lifted out of the area. Tragically, Marlon's disappearance had lasting repercussions for his family. A year after his vanishing, his father succumbed to extreme heartbreak and passed away from heart strain, undoubtedly caused by the pain of missing his beloved son. The entire sequence of events surrounding Marlon Robb's disappearance leaves an unexplainable mystery. The vanishing tracks, the confounding behavior of the bloodhounds, and the elusive nature of the beast mentioned in news articles continue to shroud the case in an aura of puzzling fog. While theories may abound, the ultimate truth behind Marlon's fate remains concealed, locked within the untamed wilderness that witnessed his mysterious disappearance. Mysterious photos captivate our attention for several compelling reasons, drawing us into a world of intrigue, curiosity, and the unknown. Mysterious photos often depict scenes or phenomena that defy explanation or challenge our understanding of the world. They evoke a sense of wonder and ignite our imagination as we ponder the possibilities behind the mysterious elements captured in the image. Whether it's an unusual creature, an unidentified object, or a bizarre occurrence, these photos invite us to speculate and envision alternative realities beyond our everyday experiences.